For more on the twists and turns involving the United States and the DPRK, we're joined by Saurabh Gupta. He is a senior fellow at the Institute for China-America Studies. So just to recap this week, we've heard yes, we've heard we'll see what happens, we've heard maybe, then yesterday we heard no, then today we heard again maybe or perhaps yes, maybe the 12th. Have you ever seen anything quite like this?
No, not quite like this, especially for something as dramatic as the summit that was proposed to be. And let's just hope that the best comes out of it. And when I talk about the best, I mean we probably will not have on June 12th, but I think the grounds are being laid for a meeting at some point of time, sooner rather than later.
If you're Moon Jae-in, are you getting whiplash? I mean, he's worked so hard on this, and then he's just being spun all around, isn't he? I mean,
yes, he is. In fact, and the fact of the matter is that within 36 hours of him being here, the decision was announced, or perhaps even less than 36 hours, and so he could have been given some sort of heads up on this. At that point of time, the Trump team was already considering whether they should pull the trigger as they did 2 days back, and he could have been given an inkling on this. He is, after all, such a close ally, and he has kept the Trump team involved in taking them into confidence on North Korea-related issues. So I'm sure he's thinking like, this hasn't been a really good thing that's happened to him.
I've heard a lot of analysts today, and of course I don't think the U.S. president listens to analysts, but they all seem to have kind of a similar statement, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with it. This administration needs to have a unified message. You heard John Bolton saying one thing, you heard Pompeo saying another thing, you hear the U.S. president saying another thing, you hear Mike Pence, the vice president, saying another thing, that there needs to be a strategy here and an effective message. I imagine you probably agree.
I agree with that, but with Donald Trump being the president, it's hard to get that unified message across. And even though I am noticing that he has become a little bit more disciplined over the past few months, it's hard, and he finally makes the final decision, and in foreign policy, he gets to make that final decision. One of the important things, though, we should take away from what has happened and transpired in the last 2 days is that in spite of it being such a disappointing development, it was not tweeted out and took people by surprise. There was consultations internally in that 36 hours period leading up, or perhaps a little longer leading up to this. And he was respectful in his tone, by and large, in the letter that he wrote. And so we can just hope for the best out here. I know we've seen it in trade, we've seen it in North Korea, but that's the way it is.
What about realistic expectations? Because the U.S. administration's been very strong, denuclearize, and you hear a lot of people saying, why would Kim do that, especially when you're throwing out the Libya model, which we know what happened with Muammar Gaddafi. Can the U.S. go into this with measured steps, saying, look, here's what we'd like to see, and can the DPRK meet them in the middle, in a sense?
It's going to be hard to do it that way. That is logically the best way forward, but that is the way that some of the previous agreements have been structured, and inevitably there is an issue of maintaining trust through that whole process. It tends to break down midway. Let me provide a slightly different perspective on the Libya model. Of course, we all know what the Libya model connotes in the minds of Kim Jong-un and practically to everybody else, even the specialists. But the Libya model can also be connoted to be denuclearization done on a very condensed, truncated, and quick schedule. This is something Kim has not totally ruled out. This could be helpful, frankly. You know, in terms of the Libya, what happened, Americans came in literally within a year and a half. They had boxed up Libya's nuclear infrastructure and hauled it across, shipped it across to Tennessee. Now, of course, North Korea is... This process is best done in a truncated way, but one has to get the mechanics of this right, because a long-drawn process will break down due to trust. But also, North Korea cannot be delivering everything immediately, early, and upfront, and not getting anything. So a condensed model on the version on the basis of how Libya worked can be useful, but one needs to have very good clarity in terms of your strategic communications and the mechanics of how it's done, that it's well communicated to both sides.
Well, we'll keep our eye on this, and we'll have you back on to talk about it, because it's not going away, this story.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Saurabh Gupta.